Are you a foster child failed by the system, a people pleaser, obese and questioning your self-worth or feeling suicidal? Then this episode of Books with Bridgetti is just for you. We're going to be sharing real stories of real women and how we get to hear, and now we're going to hear their stories firsthand. This is the women authors of the book, She is an Overcomer. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Thanks for having me on your live show. It was really my pleasure. Your production is just fantastic. Unbelievable how you guys are pulling that off. So organized with segments and transitions and all those different things. Right in line with what I'm talking about in my new book, Going Live streaming your podcast to reach more people. Hopefully people tune in for our conversations. Definitely worth the on-demand version, in my opinion, if I may say so myself. You guys are awesome.
I think this might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months, and this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids that I used to teach call bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It looks fantastic.
I love your introduction. How professional. That sounds, I feel like I'm on a beautiful show here.
Folks, welcome.
Available wherever great books are sold near you.
Oh my goodness, Ross, thank you so much.
Thanks. And, this is one of the most fun interviews that I've ever done. So thank you, Bridgetti.
Big pleasure. Ross, take care.
Thank you.
If you're just joining us, then a hearty warm welcome to Books with Bridgetti. If you're not following us, make sure you do so. That way you'll get notified the next time we go live. I'm your host, Bridgetti Lynda from Cape Town in South Africa, and our stream is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media. Now, a very warm welcome to you, whether you're watching us over on Amazon Live, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. A hearty warm welcome. This is an audience-centric show. We are monitoring the comments, so please feel free to ask our authors a question or two, say hello, but interact with us. We love that. So if you are in the audience today, if you are a foster child failed by the system, a people pleaser, obese, questioning your self-worth, or even feeling suicidal, or you know people in situations of adversity, then this episode of Books with Bridgetti is definitely for you, because it's real stories of real women, and we want to hear their story firsthand today. Our amazing guest today on the show is Lynda Sunshine West, Dara Bose, Nadia Mills, and Alicia Brauman. But before I bring these amazing women onto the show, one of the things that we are known for is helping you level up when you go live. Now, for the longest time, thanks to the pandemic, we've got other ways of getting our books out into the world. And yes, in person book launches and book signings are absolutely amazing, but they were just localized events. Thanks to the pandemic, you have now got access to the world. How cool is that? I call it business without walls. Books without walls, libraries without walls. That's just amazing, isn't it? So since we live in a world that is now digital and we can go live, I love sharing just one or two tips when we go live with the show so that you can level up. Now, if you are busy showing your book to people on TikTok, for example, or Instagram, I know that you are going to use your phone in portrait mode. And that's 100% correct because on those platforms, you'll be using the entire screen really straight. But here's a tip for you. If you are going to be talking about your book on any of the other platforms when you go live, if your phone is in portrait mode, you're going to end up with two black lines on the side. And if you ever wondered what those black lines are, that's the reason why. So if you're going live on any of the other platforms like YouTube, for example, or Facebook or LinkedIn, yay, cool, because these days on LinkedIn, just the process is so much easier to get access. So if you haven't yet looked into that as an additional avenue, do check it out. So the tip is turn your phone into landscape mode and you'll get rid of the black lines. You'll have more space to be animated. Yay. Talk about your book, hold your book in your hand. Then the other tip is don't try and do that with a phone in your hand. Use some kind of a tripod. Free your hands, whether it's something like the DJI Osmo or any whatever your choice of tripod is. And here's another quick tip. If you don't have access to a tripod, just simply take some sticky tape and tape your book onto the window. Why do you want to do that? Because you have front facing light. You never want light from behind you. People are not going to see you and they're not going to see your book. Tape your phone to the window. You'll have front facing light. You'll free up your hands to be animated, talk to your audience, show your book, page your book, free up your hands. So, those are just some quick tips. And if you're going live on your computer, if you want to level up, you could do something like adding an additional microphone that will just give you a better quality sound. Um, and then the other thing that you could do is also maybe get a better web camera. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. But today, now, yay, we want to focus on our authors. So the book we're going to be sharing today is called She is an Overcomer. These are stories of real women, and they are going to show you how they overcame their challenges. Now, first up is going to be Lynda Sunshine West. She is a speaker and executive film producer, red carpet interviewer, and a 16 times international best-selling award-winning author. Lynda is also the founder of Action Takers Publishing, and I'm going to ask her very, very briefly to just tell us a little bit about Action Takers Publishing because that is an interesting story as well. Now, Lynda, and I'm sure some of you, there's other people out there that can relate, and that's why she shares it. At the age of 5, she ran away from home to start a life of people pleasing. And then at 51, she decided to face her fears, one fear a day, for an entire year. And then she wrote the book, The Year of Fears. Oh my goodness, you've got to go check out that book as well. In fact, if you're watching us over on Amazon Live, the book that we're featuring today is in the carousel. And also Lynda's book, The Year of Fears, is there, and a couple of other books. So do go and check those out on Amazon. The person who had the idea for this particular book is Dara Bose. She is a certified NLP practitioner, a life coach, international best-selling author, and public speaker. Using her vast experience in personal development, Dara coaches women to know that they are meant for more, never to give up, and to thrive using self-reflection and motivation. She's known to help people maintain perspective during difficult situations, and her favorite phrase is, "But did you die?" I like that. How cool is that? Our next author is Nadia Mills. She is a certified health coach. At 38, she was obese, exhausted, and frustrated, she says. She knew that she wanted to be more, do more, and healthier, but didn't have the tools or the path to get there. Who of us cannot relate to that? A lot of people can relate to that story. It is so, so, so super relatable. And she says after connecting with the health coach, she lost over a whopping 100 pounds and it changed her life. Alicia Brawman is a successful small business owner of a chic vintage resale store and an up and coming real estate agent. Now, her story is very, very inspirational as well. And I'm sure that there's many who can relate to this. She was a foster youth um, who beat the odds to become one of less than 3% of foster youth to obtain a college degree. Her proudest achievement is being a mother who works hard to ensure that she breaks the cycle of poverty, abuse, neglect, and abandonment for her son. Oh my goodness, you want to meet all of these ladies. And so let's put your hands together and please give a warm welcome for our authors today.
I love that,
Ladies,
Bridgetti.
oh my goodness, I'm so honored to have all of you on the show. You are an amazing bunch of women. And Lynda, I want to introduce you first. And the reason I want to introduce you first is because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't know each other. You are a super connector extraordinaire. And you formed a company called Action Takers Publishing. You've published this book. Your story is phenomenal, awesome. So please tell us a little bit about how Action Takers Publishing um, came to be, and just give us a brief summary just as an introduction, because we'd love to know.
Yeah, well, first of all, Bridgetti, I love when you introduce us, it's like, here they come, paparazzi and everything. That's so much fun. Thank you for that. It just really got me going, right? And I think that's right there is a testament to those testimonials that, Bridgetti played a little earlier, like people saying, I just had so much fun. And that's because Bridgetti really brings the heat. So Bridgetti, thank you so much for that and for bringing us on your show. Action Takers Publishing, it's kind of interesting the way that title came about. Bridgetti shared that I ran away at 5 to become a people pleaser. Actually, I ran away at 5 and was gone for an entire week. And that's part of my story. But, as I look at this book itself, She is an Overcomer. That book, I kind of, grappled. Should I be in it? Should I not? Am I really an overcomer? I started doubting myself. And I had these doubts that a lot of us have, about our story. Is there really an impact in it? And as I've been making my way through this journey of entrepreneurship and trying to figure out like where is my place, where do I belong, I realized something. I was a huge procrastinator. How many of you procrastinate on things? How many of you start things but you never finish? This was me. I did this. I ran away at 5. I started brownies. I was on it for a week. I started this. I was in it for 2 weeks. I had 49 jobs in 36 years. I was a person who started a lot of things, but I didn't finish a lot of things. And so as I was looking at that, I said, you know what? I want to be surrounded by action takers, people who start and finish things. So I created the company just because I wanted to be surrounded by action takers. What's cool is I became an action taker through that process. So that's how Action Takers Publishing came about. That's how the name came about. And now, we're on Bridgetti, we're going to be publishing, I think it's 8 books between now and the end of the year. So we're like just taking off and like moving full steam ahead. There ain't no stopping us now.
Oh my goodness. Now, before I let you go, and before we move on to Dara, tell us what your mission is, because I think that is just mind-blowing.
Well, first I'll tell how the mission came about, and then I'll tell you what the mission is. I love the number 5. I'll just start it with that. I love the number 5. It's my favorite number. So I came up with this idea that, we want to empower people to share their stories. But then people are like, well, how many people? Because you can't just say people, because it could be one people, right? One people. And so I said, you know what? We are going to empower 50,000, because number 5, 50,000 people to share their stories. And I said, oh yeah, Grant Cardone, he always says you need to 10x everything. So I said, 5 million. Like, wait a minute, that's 100x. So I actually 100x'd it and I just kept it there. So our mission is to empower 5 million women and men to share their stories with the world to make a greater impact on the planet. It's through your stories that you make that impact. So super excited. We're starting. We're going. We got only 4 million something to go.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Without ambition, we get nowhere in life. We've got to have a goal. If you don't have a goal to work towards, you're working at nothing. You're literally trying to just, throw spaghetti to the walls and hope that it makes sense to the rest of the world. But if you have got a goal, it's something that you're going to chip away at and work towards. That is amazing. Dara, now this book was your idea. It's your baby. It's your brainchild. Now I know that you love inspiring other women. Tell us a little bit about how you. Lynda, I'm going to put you on full screen just for a second, just to show that book. And then, Dara, if you can tell us a little bit about how that idea came about for the book, and what propelled you in wanting to write and share your story.
I've actually published a couple books with Action Takers Publishing. So this isn't my first book with them. And I am a big person of faith. And I was just sitting there one day, and this idea to put these stories together of women who have overcome their challenges and how they saw their faith work in that just kind of was given to me and laid on my heart. So with that, I reached out to Lynda, and I said, Lynda, I have this idea. So I pitched the idea to Lynda and Sally with Action Takers, and Lynda was absolutely on board. She said, yes, let's do this. So that's kind of where it came from. In my line of work, I deal with a lot of women who have faced challenges in their past, and so many of the women that when they come to me, they kind of feel like they're alone and that no one else knows what they're going through, and they just kind of felt like no one else could understand this. But the reality is that all of us can relate to struggle. And by putting these stories together and all these women telling their stories, I'm hoping that these stories will inspire someone who's out there thinking that they're alone and that there's not going to be better, that no one can help them, no one can understand. And by reading these stories, it inspires them to also overcome.
I love that, Dara. And it's something that I really love about storytelling, because the struggle is real. And I think the one thing that have come out of the pandemic is that we've learned to be more empathetic. It was one of the situations where we were all suffering, regardless of where we lived, at the same time. And I think our empathy levels have just gone up a notch since the pandemic. And when we overcome our fear to be ourselves, our fear to share our story, and we open up, we can buy into each other's vulnerability, and it is something that just binds us. So, a question I want to ask you before I move on to the other ladies, is something that a lot of people grapple with. Now, I know it's not your first book, but how did you overcome the fear of letting go of your story? Because, our stories are immensely and deeply personal. And often in our struggles, we want to hide away because, we feel shame, we feel fear, we feel that nobody else can understand us. And so you kind of have these palpitations, literally, before you let go your story into the world. How did you overcome that? Because I think there's a lot of people out there, everyone has a story, but we have the fear. How did you let go of the fear to get your story out?
Well, I don't think that I really overcame the fear necessarily, but it was something about telling my story that was freeing, that kind of lifted that from me. And knowing that if anything I've gone through and if my struggle can help someone else not have to go through the struggle or to get from struggle to success a lot faster, that's why my story had to be told. So it wasn't really overcoming the fear, because that fear is still there. Every time I share and every time someone picks up one of my books, I still have that little, oh, what are they going to think of me? Because I told this story. I put it all out there. But the thing is, there's a reason that I went through it, and my struggle has a purpose.
I love that. I love that you are explaining that it doesn't really take away the fear, and that every time you do a new book, you feel that same sense of, can I let go? And that is real, you know. Lynda, did you feel that way as well? Do you still feel that way as well, Lynda?
I don't anymore. And I think I'm somewhat desensitized to fear. Like I still experience fear, but I just blast through it because, you know, after breaking through one fear every single day for a whole year, I like to say I exercised my fear muscle. I know it's not a muscle, but, you know, because I just, it's like, oh, that's fear. Okay, cool. I'm going to do this because I'm scared. That's my new mantra. I don't do things in spite of the fear because that's a negative feeling. But if I say I'm going to do this because I'm scared, because I know that the result on the other side of fear 99% of the time is an amazing result. So why would I prevent myself from experiencing that? So I don't experience that anymore. Thank God, because I did a lot, you know, at the beginning. But yeah, that fear has totally disappeared for me.
That's amazing. So go and check out that book of Lynda's, The Year of Fears. Alicia, your story is phenomenal. It's absolutely inspirational. I know that everybody has got a unique story, and everybody's story inspires somebody. And I think all of us who shared our stories with the world, it's not that we really want to conquer the world, but I think most of us feel that if I've just inspired one person, I've made a difference. Elisa, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've come out of the foster system. Your story is inspirational. You got yourself an education. You've got an amazing son that you're raising. You've risen above the odds. Why did you want to tell your story?
Probably for first and foremost, going back to that fear aspect, is that I realized that for a long time, it was something that I wanted to talk about, mostly because no matter who I spoke to or what I talked about, I felt like as a foster child, we were unheard. A lot of the things that we went through were written off, or just they weren't seen, or you weren't able to see them through our lens, right? You weren't walking our shoes. And so I realized that the way to help people walk in my shoes and to see what we're seeing through our lens, right, through us as foster children, was to just put away all that fear and decide to be the voice for the voiceless, for the countless amount of foster children who are experiencing atrocities every single day. I mean, the point at which I was in the foster system and where we are now, it's not much different. There is not a lot of change that has happened. And so I feel like it's my job to step up and utilize my story and the story of others to showcase to the world that this is an issue and it needs to be solved. And so that's my huge initiative in all of this, is just to make sure that we're heard. And this book has given me that opportunity, right? Lynda and Dara both have just provided us with a platform to reach thousands of millions beyond of people, to let them know that this is actually real life stories. This is happening and it's real, and it needs, a change needs to be brought about from this.
That's amazing, and I really want to applaud you for rising above your circumstances, and that's huge. We sometimes can underestimate the impact of our stories and the fact that we can make a difference out there in the world, and we need to tell our stories for that particular reason. How does your son feel about you having published a book? Please do tell.
Well, my son is only 10 months old, but I will say that this is actually an interesting question, because I've pondered this thought of me showcasing my story and what I've been through. How is that going to affect him in the future, right? By putting this into the world and everybody else knowing, what his mom went through, how will that affect him? But in my mind, it's just, it gives him, and this is me speaking for future him, I really hope that it shows him the strength that I have, but it also encourages him to not only help other children, that have gone through what I've been through, but it encourages him to make a difference in the same way that I am, by using his voice. And I want to be, set that example for him. And so while it is something that I've pondered, whether or not, having his mom's whole life story being put on display is something that he would want. At the end of the day, I really hope that I'm able to nourish and provide a foundation for him, that I'm able to, allow him to grow in a way that he sees this as the strength that his mom went through and uses it as, motivation for his own life and his own steps that he takes.
Alicia, I have no doubt that your son's going to be proud of you. Just listening to you, and I'm thinking of all the stories that went through my mind and my head when I first started my journey to become, on my way to producing live streams, having my own show, becoming a talk show host, and then, getting into a book thanks to Lynda. I had all kinds of negative emotions and feelings about putting myself out into the world, and I was beating myself up in my own head. And it turns out that, my family was proud of me, my friends, my neighbors. People have come out and just supported me in ways that I never expected. And I have no doubt that your son, by the time he gets to read your book, he's going to be saying, my mom wrote this book. And I'm sure with Lynda's goal of getting 5 million books out there, I just know you've got more stories in you, that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and that we're going to hear a lot more of your story. So thank you, Elisa. Really appreciate that you put yourself out there to share your story, your inspirational story with the world. Nadia, your story, there's so many people out there who struggle with obesity and they've done that for years. People have been yo-yo dieters for their lives. People have died because of obesity related illnesses. And people just, struggle with that. But you've worked your way through that by connecting with a health coach. So tell us a little bit about the value of working with a coach and how it's changed your life and how you got to share your story in the book.
Yeah, thank you. I think that you're right that people do struggle with it so much. I was overweight starting at age 14, and it was just so generational. My family, generations of poor health. And so actually during COVID, I ended up connecting with a health coach who said that there was hope for health. And I said, "You're crazy. I've been fighting this for 24 years and I've tried everything and nothing works. And this is just who I am." I had just owned the identity of poor health. And so I got connected and I started working on my habits. I started working on not just physical habits, but a lot of the mental habits. I learned really that my health journey had a lot more to do with what was between my ears and a lot less to do with even what I was eating and working out and all of that. And so I actually got connected with another friend who's another feature author in the book. And, she invited me to be part of that journey. And I just thought, only God could take a woman who had been overweight for 24 years and turn her into a health coach. And so when I talked to Dara about the book and her idea of overcoming and how it was connected to faith, I said, my whole journey is faith, because there's no way that this could have been my story without a divine plan. So that's kind of how that happened for me.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's amazing. And I think people don't often really understand what the value of a coach is.
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody holding your hand, somebody that's unbiased, somebody that's not a family member, somebody that is removed from the emotion of where you are at in life, that can guide you without that goggles of a cloud that somebody that knows you will have. There's no emotional baggage. They can tell it like it is, and you can say it like it is, and they can just guide you in the right direction. Now, we're going to take a really short break. And when we come back, I would like to know how each one of you ladies met Lynda, because everyone has a story about how they met Lynda, and I want to know what that story is. We'll take a quick break, and Dara will start with you. Welcome back. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and we're talking to the amazing authors of the book, She's an Overcomer. Dara, how did you meet Lynda?
Yeah, I actually met Lynda through a friend of mine because I was working on a different book and some things happened, and my friend Sherry actually said, okay, well, I know this amazing lady. Her name is Lynda, and she's going to take on our book. And so I was in the book Wellness for Winners that was published by Action Takers Publishing. So that's how I met Lynda, was through a friend, one of my good friends, Sherry.
Awesome. I love that. Nadia, how did you meet Lynda?
Yeah, so really similar. I have a friend who's in my small group, and we both connected over writing and faith. And she was telling me about this opportunity, and I was like, I love to write. And she's like, well, let me connect you. And so I got connected with Dara, and then I got connected with Lynda, and all the pieces just fell into place. And I have just loved being part of a group that's so empowering to women and sharing stories. And so, yeah, just a friendship, right? The power of networking and just sharing your story so that people know, what you have to offer and what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Lynda is absolutely the queen of collaboration. Alicia, how did you meet Lynda?
Well, very much of a godsend. So I was actually just scrolling through Facebook, and I saw a post from Dara, and she was reaching out and kind of telling the story of the book and her idea and the concept, and wondering if anyone was interested. And so through Dara, I met Lynda, and let me just say that has been amazing. She's not just one of those people that's like, I'm going to help you publish a book, but she's there through anything and everything. I mean, I reached out to her for some help and just some guidance on another project that I was working on that had nothing to do with Action Takers Publishing, and she stepped up and stepped in right away. So, I mean, it has just been a godsend, and I'm so glad that I've met all of these women, but for sure it's been amazing to have been connected with Lynda.
Every time I speak to people who know Lynda, the stories are similar, which just speaks to the fact that she truly is the queen of collaboration. And I'm sure you ladies can agree or disagree with me, but something that I discovered when publishing with Lynda is that it's so quick and easy. It makes the process completely stress-free. And in the process of writing a collaboration book, you make new friends. Your horizon just expands, and it's the camaraderie, you just feel so connected. There's nothing scary about the process, at all. Do you ladies agree with my assessment there?
I completely agree. But I've worked with other publishers and done other collaborations, and Lynda makes this so easy, and you don't have to worry about your story not being told through your own words. So they take our stories and they tell our stories the way that we want them to be told. And so it's just very comfortable and very safe to tell your stories through Lynda.
Wow, I really like that, because you often hear of authors talking about how the publisher wanted them to use a different angle. Now, I've never heard of anybody coming back to me and saying that they didn't tell their story their way because Lynda wanted them to use a different angle. So thanks for sharing that. Alicia, your thought on that?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, even the little ideas or thoughts that she had, if I hit her back with, hey, this is kind of where I was going, if she didn't understand the route that I was going, I was able to clarify. I mean, everything was just very much how I wanted to tell the story. It wasn't, hey, you need to do this. It was hey, what about this? And then, whatever I chose to do, we would just bounce off of each other with the ideas. And I mean, she made sure that what I wanted to say is what was said, just in the best way available, to be received.
Fantastic. Truly, truly a collaborative initiative. And she makes you feel that you're really, really part of the whole book. And that to me is phenomenal. Nadia, what has the experience been like for you from that perspective?
Yeah, it's been great. I think one of the things that I really appreciate is communication. And, we have been just getting such amazing communication through a Facebook Messenger group, through emails. We've just been handed all of our marketing materials to be able to promote this and to celebrate it. And, I got images in my email with my quote and my picture. For me personally, things that I would have assumed I might have to do on my own. And so that has just been so helpful. This is my first publication, and so I didn't know what to expect or, what would be given to me or what I might have to do on my own. And so that has just been so incredibly awesome. I just feel like I've been kind of had that person walking with me hand in hand throughout the whole process. So it's been great.
Thanks for sharing that. And a lot of people talk about how stressed out they are. At my experience and from a lot of other people, that whole build up to the point where your book is released is like, oh my goodness, this is such an exciting thing. I'm so happy to be part of this. It just feels so warm and fuzzy and, exciting. Lynda, can I ask you to read, a section out of the book just to give people a feel for what it is they can expect when they pick up this book?
I would be honored. And first, I want to just thank you, ladies, so much. When I hear things like this is really important because as we're putting together Action Takers Publishing, I've been in many collaboration books myself, and I kept asking myself the question, like, what was I missing? What was I missing to make sure that we can fulfill that gap? And so thank you so much for sharing all those comments you just said, because it tells me that I'm hitting the mark. And that's so important for me to be able to hit the mark in our business. So what I'm going to share with you is what we like to do is, because my name, Lynda Sunshine, by the way, that is not my given name. That name was given to me about 5 years ago. Randomly, people started calling me Sunshine. After all these decades on this planet, I had never been called Sunshine before until after I started my personal development journey. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and adopt it. So what we've come up with in our books is, instead of having a foreword or instead of having an introduction, we call it a sunny note. So here we have a sunny note from Dara Bose and Lynda Sunshine West. This book was truly a calling from God. Dara was working with Lynda Sunshine on another book when the idea for this book came to her. She pitched the idea, and She is an Overcomer was born. Every person has their own unique life experiences, as well as their own struggles and triumphs. The 31 women in this book prove that. They share their stories in their own words and from a place of vulnerability. There are real stories of real women who have lived through challenges that many people may or may not have faced at some point in their lives. For some reason, these women, writing was a form of therapy, while for others, it was difficult as it caused them to relive traumatic experiences. When we brought together this amazing group of women, we wanted to be sure that we did not limit the types of stories that were being told. There could be a woman out there thinking that she is alone and that no one could understand how she felt. She could feel like there is no hope for her. These women are here to tell you that there is hope. There's a trigger warning in this book, and that triggers are anything that might cause a person to recall a traumatic experience that they've had. For example, graphic images of violence might be a trigger for some people, but not others. Less obvious things, including songs, odors, or even colors, can be triggers depending on someone's experiences. Some of the stories in this book might cause you to remember a traumatic experience or event from your past and may lead to heightened emotions. This can be called a trigger. If this happens to you, there is help out there, and you can find it if you need it. The women in this book are simply telling their stories after much healing has taken place in their own lives.
That is amazing. Thank you so, so much, Lynda. So we're going to take a really, really short break. And when we come back, what I'd like to do is to ask each of you to tell us what the title of your chapter is, how you came up with that title, and what it is that you want somebody to get out of your story. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and I'm talking to the amazing women authors of She's an Overcomer. If you've missed part of the show, you want to go right back to the beginning and watch the entire interview so far, because it's been truly inspirational. So, Dara, I'd like to start with you. Tell us what the title of your chapter is and what it is you'd like the reader to get out of your chapter.
Dara's title is Life After Suicide. I'm going to say the titles just in case they don't have them handy, because I do. Okay, so Dara's is Life After Suicide. Dara, unmute yourself, and there you go.
Yeah, thanks. I couldn't remember what way I went with that one. I was so thought in my head, Bridgetti, about what the title of my chapter was, and I forgot what you even wanted me to talk about. My chapter is Life After Suicide. So my dad committed suicide, and that was kind of a turning point in my life. From going from living the life I was living, and turning to personal development and such. And so I thought that was an important story, because it's not something that a lot of people go through, but a lot of people deal with mental health issues, which I myself struggle with. And I found myself in a dark place. So I just kind of tell my story of going through that, and kind of where I was, and how I kind of turned that all around.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dara. So next we'll go to Alicia, and Lynda will ask you what your chapter is last. So if you can just tell us what Alicia's chapter is, and then Alicia, if you can tell us what it is that you want the readers to get out of your story.
Yeah, and Alicia's chapter is titled Rising from the Ashes.
Yes, so it's right there, within the title. My big initiative with my chapter is to not only showcase my story, but I go on to talk about the current state of the foster system, and how, there are millions of other children out there who need some sort of guidance and help and change to be made. So what I want for the readers to take from my story is to recognize that while I was able to rise from the ashes myself, and I was able to overcome that adversity and succeed despite the adversity, that same instance can be true for the countless foster children. They just need someone to intercede, and they need someone to step in to help make that change. And so my hope with my chapter is to not only provide knowledge of what is happening, but also to spread the awareness that you can be the change for another foster child, and helping them to also rise from the ashes.
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Lynda, what is Nadia's chapter? And then Nadia, if you can tell us what you were wanting your readers to get out of your story.
Yeah, Nadia's chapter title is Living in Abundance.
Yeah, so when I think about the word abundance, I think about that in every aspect of our life. And oftentimes we think about abundance really only being the good stuff. And so, more money or more fame or more family or whatever that is. And so when readers read through my chapter, what I want them to know is that there's hope, right? For health, for physical health, mental, financial, whatever that is. But I want them to know that there's hope. And I want them to know that abundance might look a little bit differently than maybe what they might think. And that there is purpose in their story, right? Like there's purpose in their story. So even if it takes them 24 years to find their journey to better health, that if they trust and lean into that story, that there will be purpose in that, and they can be part of someone else's complete life change. And that is abundance. And so that's what I hope that people find there.
Oh my goodness, I absolutely love that. Because, oftentimes when people talk about abundance, people relate abundance to financial wealth. And I love that you emphasize the fact that abundance can be different things for different people and that that's okay. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. Lynda, what is the title of your chapter, and what is it that you're hoping people will get or glean from your story?
The title of Lynda's chapter, that's me, is Faith Over Fear Wins Every Time. So what I'm hoping that people will take from this chapter is I allowed fear to run my life the first 51 years of my life. It started at age 5 when I ran away. And when I came back, I just went to the neighbor's house, so I was safe. But I intended to be gone forever. It was a very abusive environment that I was living in. And I didn't want to live in that. So when I came home, because my mom brought me home, I ended up, turning to fear as well as becoming a people pleaser. It controlled my life for so many decades. I don't know how many opportunities I missed out on because of that. So it's through, facing through our fears and having faith in ourselves, having faith in our surroundings, the people in our circle, and having faith in God. And, tapping into those 3 places to have that faith that I got this, I can do this. I know that I'm going to be able to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. You're living that life of abundance, right? And so it's through our fear that we can say, that's just fear. Really, that is just fear. I'm going to do this because I'm scared. That's what I hope people get out of my chapter and start, just start stopping fear. Stop letting fear stop you. There, that's what I'm trying to say.
That is amazing. And, therein lies a huge, huge lesson for each of us. And again, I want to say to you, if you're in that space of fear, if fear is what holding you back from stepping into who you truly are, and a lot of people are, caught in fear for many, many reasons. Lynda's story is very inspirational, and the fact that she took an entire year to work on one fear a day, and almost sort of mastered that whole art of overcoming fear. You definitely want to go and read that story as well. But if you are watching us over on Amazon Live, and if you're not on Amazon Live, go over to Amazon, grab a copy of this book. She's an Overcomer. Lynda, how many authors are there altogether in this book?
This particular book is 31. And I think there's a Proverbs 31 somebody was telling us about. Like, I'm not like scripturally adept, but there was something about it. It's interesting because it was going to be 30, and then we had this one last person came talk to her, and it was like, oh my gosh, she would be amazing in this book, and she said yes. So we hit the number 31. So 31 incredible stories from these women of overcoming different challenges in their lives.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. 31 amazing, amazing, amazing stories. Lynda, if anybody is watching this interview right now, or they're catching it on the replay, and they can relate to these stories and they want to tell their story, what do you want to say to them? Do you still have how many collaboration books are you still planning to do? And I also do want to ask you, how did you come up with this whole idea of doing collaboration books? Because I think it's brilliant. A lot of us are so scared to write an entire book, and it feels overwhelming. So for me, well, I was there anyway. So for me to sort of be able to get involved with a collaboration book was mind-blowing as a means of getting published. What have you got up your sleeve in the future?
I got no sleeves on today, but no, it's interesting. Volume 2, Dara says volume 2. We have currently, I think it's 9. We have 9 different collaboration books that we're currently working on. And the collaboration books are just, bringing people together to share their stories. And we're always looking at, how can we change up what we're doing so that we can give our authors more opportunities to get themselves out there. So this is more than just a book. This is more than just their stories. It's opportunities for them to be able to connect with other people. Well, so we do have, 9 other books that are in the works currently. And with that said, I have a list of 75 chapter titles for us to work on. What happens is around 3:00 in the morning, sometimes I'm awakened with a chapter title, and I just add it to my list. And of course, we're not working on all 75 of them right now, but we will make our way through all of those books. And so it's just fascinating. And the collaboration books, how I got into it is back in 2015. It was January. I had just started breaking through One Fear Every Day. And it was about January 15th. So I had done 15 days in a row of breaking through fears. And I ended up meeting somebody who would end up becoming my mentor. And during that year, in March of 2015, he was writing a book called Footsteps of the Fearless. Now, I'm breaking through a fear every day. At that time, he's like, you're perfect to be in this book, this collaboration book. And I was like, I have no idea what this is all about, but here's an opportunity and I'm jumping in because I knew that I had let so many opportunities just slip me by for decades. And I was tired of that. And for now on, it's like, I'm going to take advantage of opportunities. I see the opportunity and then seize the opportunity. That became my mantra. And so I jumped into that collaboration book. And then after I was done with that year, 2015, I'm done breaking through fear every day. My mentor says, hey, that's cool that you broke through a fear every day. What are you going to do about it? And like, the ladies were mentioning, our stories, our messages, they have a meaning and there's a reason for us to share them. And I just never thought about sharing it. And he said, you need to write a book about it. And I was like, I ain't writing a book. Like, that's scary. I'm not going to write a book. Well, I ended up writing the book because I do listen to my mentor. He sees in me that I don't see. And so I wrote the book, The Year of Fears. But after that book was done, I was like, what's my next natural state of progression? Because I want to keep growing while I'm here on this planet. And so I was like, I was in a book. I wrote my own book. I'm going to start writing my own collaboration books where I bring people together because I love building community. It's one of my favorite things to do is to build a community. And so I started doing that. And that was way back in 2017 that I did my first book. I reached out to some people that I know and said, hey, I'm thinking of writing this book. Will you be part of it? And they all said yes. And I was like, let's do it. And that was the start. I just did it for fun. I had no idea it was going to turn into a business. It was just for fun. And I'll share with you. So Bridgetti is in Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And that's a book that we published, in 2021 in August. And I published 2 books 8 days apart. Fearless Entrepreneurs, which is in the carousel there, as well as Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. That's also in the carousel. Those 2 books launched 8 days apart. I was by myself doing my own thing. I didn't have a team, but I knew what I was doing. I'm a very organized person. Though both of those books hit #1 international in 3 countries under 5 hours. So at the end of the day, I looked at that and said, oh my gosh, like, I love this. This is so much fun. I know what I'm doing and I am pretty damn good at it. This is what I'm going to do. And so I just like dove in feet first. And that's where we are today. It's been an incredible journey.
Wow, it absolutely has. I mean, we've known each other for a good couple of years, and if somebody asked me if you'd be doing this 5-6 years ago, I didn't see that. I didn't see that for you. I don't know if you did, but you've absolutely blown my mind with what you've been able to achieve. It's kind of, you've just nailed down this process. And for everybody else out there, it's like, wow, this is so easy. It's a fun thing to be part of your collaboration books. So we'll do a quick round robin, a final word of what you'd like to say to your readers out there, because this is an actual book launch party. This book is just launching. So what would you like to say to people out there who picks up a copy of the book? Dara, we'll start with you because this was your book idea.
Yeah, I just want to say that this book is for everyone. And if you feel alone, or that if you're struggling, that there is someone that has a story and has been through, and that you are not alone, and you should definitely take a look at this book. And when you read it, make sure you have a Kleenex available because these stories are very powerful.
Awesome. Alicia, if I could ask you next, what you want to say to the readers, and then I'll ask Nadia, and we'll end off with Lynda.
Yeah, so it's funny that Dara said that at the end. I was thinking the same thing. Make sure you have a Kleenex ready. I have read through most of these stories, and I'm just amazed and in awe. I mean, the fact that so many of these women have been so vulnerable to share, just know that when reading this, not only should it help you to feel empowered, you know, in your own life, but just recognize that, like Dara said, you're not alone. And the fact that someone else was able to overcome something should motivate you and showcase to you that you can do it too, that this is your walk and your journey, and you can make that decision. You don't have to let anything that you go through sink you to the bottom. You can always swim up to the top and take that breath of fresh air for yourself.
Thanks so much, Alicia. Nadia, what do you want to say to your readers out there?
I think that, you know, as people read this book, I want them to remember that, like, my story was given to me to show other people that that mountain could be climbed. And I think that their story was also given to them for potentially that same purpose. And so I think I want them to read it with just hope and sort of a vision for, like, who is their future self? Who is he or she that's on top of that mountain? And what do they look like? And what do they love? And what are they doing? And what dreams do they have? And what fear is in the way? And for the first time, I hope that they're reminded, or maybe a repeat time, but I want them to be reminded that they're working towards that future self, and he or she is out there for them to go find.
Awesome, Nadia. Thank you so much. Lynda, what do you want people to get out of your story in She's an Overcomer?
Yeah, definitely. You know, fear is debilitating. It can stop us from doing what we want to do, stop us from doing what we should do. And so I came up with an acronym. I'm going to share this acronym with you, and it really is befitting of this book, especially She is an Overcomer. And that is that faith erases anxious reactions. Fear. Faith erases anxious reactions. When our faith is strong, our fear is weakened. So I want you to think about that. What does this mean? When I'm experiencing fear, my faith is weakened. So a lot of times what I'll do is when I'm experiencing a fearful moment, I'll ask myself a simple question, and that's like, how strong is my faith right now? How strong is my faith right now that my fear is strong? So it's time for me to flip it and to have faith in, again, myself, have faith in my circle, and have faith in God, and then just blast through it and do it. Because when you break through fear, 99% of the time, the results you get are going to be amazing. So don't prevent yourself from experiencing that amazing result.
Oh my goodness, that is such a high note on which to end the show today. Lynda, thank you so much. And can I ask you to just one last time hold up that book so people can see the cover of the book, recognize it, and go and grab a copy of She is an Overcomer. Oh my goodness, lady, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your amazing story with us. Lynda, just hold that back cover. I love that you show all the authors on the book in your collaboration book. Thank you for doing that. It is amazing that you do that. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your books, sharing your stories in She's an Overcomer. To our audience out there, oh my goodness, thank you so much to each and everyone watching the show live right now. And if you're catching this on the replay, thank you for watching it. Thank you for sharing it. We so appreciate you. This was awesome. Go and grab a copy of She is an Overcomer. Take care, everyone. We'll see you back on the next episode of Books with Bridgetti.